Thank you for coming. You do the most precious gift for our family, and that is to be present in their lives. The good news is you don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything. Just by being here, you give them a lot of comfort. Because it says that Ruth's life had meaning to you and meaning to others. And that gives them the sense that what is important about her does not die. What is important about her lives forever. It can't be destroyed by death because it doesn't have form. You can't touch it. You can't do anything to it. It's just there. It's a part of the universe. It's a part of everything that we do. And so you just be there today. If family will need you, they will reach out to you. They will take your hand. They will hold on to your arm. They will take a shoulder to cry on if they have to. Or they may just want to talk. They may want to hear stories. It's the best way that we connect one generation to another. It's just by the stories that we tell and the things that we do. So this is really then a celebration of Ruth's life. And I know you've heard all that from pastors before, but really you can take it from me as the truth. Because actually in Hebrew we have no word for funeral service. We have no word for memorial service. We say this is levaya, which means to journey. And so what we're really doing here is just celebrating Ruth's journey in this life. A journey that came into this life with those that loved her, a journey throughout life with those that loved her, a journey that now takes a different form into a different place with those that love her. So by your being here today and with family here, you are literally completing her life. You've given her now the perfect life, the whole life. All those words in Hebrew relate to one word, shalom. You have given her a life of peace as well. So we begin our memorial with a reading that we traditionally read for the women of our faith. It comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, verses 10 through 31. An Eshes Chayil, a gallant woman, for who can find? For far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. She is like a merchant fleet, bringing her sustenance from afar. She arises while it is yet night and gives provision to her household and direction to her maidens. She envisions a field and acquires it, and from the fruit of her handiwork she plants a vineyard. With vigor she girds her loins and strengthens her arms. She discerns that her enterprise is good, her lamp does not go out by night. Her hand she stretches out to the distaff, her palms support the spindle. She spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. She fears not snow for her household, for her entire household is clothed with scarlet wool. Fine covers she made herself, linen and purple wool are her clothing. Prominent in the gates is her husband as he sits with the elders of the land. She makes a cloak and sells it and deals a belt to the peddler. Strength and splendor are her raiment, and she cheerfully awaits the last day. Her mouth is opened with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her, her husband, and he lauds her. Many daughters have accomplished well. You surpass them all. Grace is false and beauty is vain. A woman in awe of God, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her own hand, and let her deeds praise her in the gathering of places. Amen. So that's the way that we begin to remember. I get asked this question all the time. How do you do a eulogy? How do you encapsulate a person's life? And I say, you do it from the heart. The only instructions for how to do a eulogy come from the Talmud, and they tell the speaker to be short. Not because they were looking at their watches in the 4th century in Babylon when they wrote the Talmud, but it's more the idea that what you want to do is just speak genuinely. And the longer that you really think about somebody and really struggle to say something, the less you really are saying about it. So it's kind of like first impressions. That's what we really take away from people. So I have some things, but I'm going to hold on to them for just a second. I'm going to turn to family and let them kind of tell Ruth's story.
Okay, I speak up. I kind of in my mind prepared what I'd say today, and I want to be short because there's a lot, it's a long day anyway. My mother was a very supportive and loving and caring person. And what she really wanted most in anything was to see everybody, her family, my sister and I, and all the people she encountered to be successful and happy. And that's the nicest thing you could think of a person if they thought of everybody else as well as themselves. And she always thought she wanted to see people happy. Now, some of you may know her, but she came over like in '38 because of the Holocaust. So she suffered a little bit. Anybody who at that time who had to flee, a tyrant, had problems. But she made the best life she could, and she had a loving husband who supported her for almost 53 years. He passed away in '95. But all I can, as a son, and I have my sister and my wife to remember, and my wife here to remember her. She just wanted to make sure everybody felt good about themselves and about life. And I think, there's a Jewish word meaning l'chaim, which is, I think, I'm not sure. I went through it all, but I think it means life to everyone. And she really believed that life should be for everyone, and we should live life to its fullest. So I celebrate and support her in her next, journey where she is now. And I'm sure those of you who had an opportunity to engage with her, she shared just happiness and wanted everybody, including herself and everybody else, to be happy. So I'm going to leave it as that. I think it's short and to the point.
We have anybody else from family that wants to talk?
So, I never got a chance to talk to Ruth about this, but I really, had we been able to continue with our little shul of 3 people, I was going to offer her the chance to do a bas mitzvah, because she lamented, well, for those of you that don't know, the organization that her parents belonged to in New York was called the Workmen's Circle, and in that, way back in the ancient history in New York City, I mean, basically the Workmen's Circle was like a communist synagogue. I mean, there's kind of no other way to describe it. They really were. I mean, and I mean that, they were very liberal, incredibly liberal, and in a world where it was still pretty much, an Orthodox community in New York, that took something. So it was the time when Reform Judaism was really breaking away from traditional Judaism. So like the men stopped wearing kippot and they stopped wearing taluses, and they moved into the suburbs and drove to the synagogue on Saturdays, which breaks all of Jewish tradition. And women got educated, which was the good news, but women stopped having, bas mitzvahs, that, they just stopped kind of doing all that stuff. And so she never had one. And I'm not sure that she got a lot of real, Jewish instruction as well from that, because they weren't teaching them what kids normally learn in Sunday school. They were, teaching them probably social justice things, which is good. But, if you don't have the foundation in your faith, then you don't really have much of a faith. So my great memory of Ruth is that whenever we would meet and we would try to do a service, and then we'd also have kind of a Bible study and a kind of a contemporary lesson, and just kind of really did as much Judaism as I could in a couple of hours. We probably would say something, and she had the same comment. I didn't know that. And that was, but it wasn't out of like ignorance. It was like she was thrilled to be learning this stuff. She was excited. She'd be the first one to come, the last one to leave, and she's the only one that made all of our services, because you guys went to dinner and whatever, or you went to another shul one time and all of that, but she came every time and literally stayed. If I didn't get up, we'd probably still be sitting there. And so I really said to myself, I got to offer her this. I think it would have been really cool to have, kind of derived a Torah portion for her to learn. She would have, I think, just probably jumped out of her skin with joy and all that. So I'm going to have to find a way, in some kind of way, to honor. I'm going to have to pick a child who I think kind of, exemplifies her, and do that in her honor someday. And I don't know, we'll figure something out. I'm going to do it, and I'll just have to figure out the logistics of trying to do it from the next world. So, but it was a thrill to be her rabbi for those few weeks, and a thrill to teach her something. So I will take that away from that, and know that, you know, sometimes sometimes we do say things that people do take to heart. So we'll just continue on with that. So, is there anybody else that would like to offer anything? Yes.
My voice is not very strong.
It's all right.
Anybody who knew Ruth and spent the time to get to know her had a wonderful experience, to the point where I invited her to talk to my children about